great piece of malicious compliance happening on Boston radio. The Toucher and Rich show on 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston are doing some great malicious compliance right now. Backstory time. A couple weeks ago, corporate fired one of the producers from their show as part of company-wide cost-cutting measures, despite the fact that the show has the highest ratings in Boston morning show history, and the station having the 5th highest revenue in all of the country. The host sat down with management and tried to convince them to hire the producer back, explaining how important he was to the show. Corporate did not change their mind and the producer remained fired. Rich from the show was finally able to get the producer rehired by agreeing to pay his salary plus a 38% administrative fee out of his own paycheck. The show also had to commit to writing 4 articles a day for the station's website. They started writing the articles today. Cue the malicious compliance. The articles are all just one-sentence clickbait pieces. The first article title is, "You're never gonna believe how tall Rich is. The answer might shock you. Click here." The article itself just reads, "How tall is Rich? The answer might shock you. 6 feet tall." I don't know why corporate is pissing off the talent so much. I have a feeling that they could be leaving the station when their contracts are up, all because of short-sighted decisions by the bean counters. In my local market, the biggest duo just disappeared at one point. Turned out corporate decided to fire their news guy from their team without asking or informing them. Corporate felt the news guy was too old, so they just walked. They had a non-compete clause, so they just took a year off and then went to work at the competition. https://985thesportshub.com/listicle/ "You're never gonna believe how tall Rich is. The answer might shock you. Click here/" The real problem, and this isn't humorous, is that many of these radio stations that this and many of the huge broadcasting companies own were purchased at far more than they're worth. They couldn't make the debt load if they sold 30 minutes out of each hour at the top of their rate card. So instead, they fire employees. It's sad. That's why I'm glad I'm in a small rural market and building my national show podcast. I'm not going to fire me. Back in the 90s, Congress passed a law allowing media companies to own more than 40 total properties. It's called the Telecommunications Act of 1996. After this, all these stations and papers started getting bought up by larger companies. Today, 91% of news media is controlled by 6 companies. Fun fact: iHeartMedia now owns 1,200 radio stations. They fire hosts and producers all the time, regardless of if the station is profitable. Back in 2001 in Minot, ND, there was a massive ammonia spill at 2 in the morning. 6 of the 9 stations in Minot were owned by iHeart. The city was unable to get their permission to break from format and tell the public about this emergency. As a result of the public being unduly exposed, 1 person died and another 1,000 were hospitalized. iHeart didn't take any responsibility. Those clowns in Congress. What a bunch of clowns. Quote, "Radio is a weird world. Even the highest rated people are disposable because there isn't the continuing income you get from TV. You can always just fire everyone and play Christmas music with a skeleton crew and make a profit. Ooh, good on them. Best part is they can't claim they're not doing their best to get clicks. It's short-sighted, rather than sighted. By the way, as in they can't see far enough into the future." Rich from the show was finally able to get the producer rehired by agreeing to pay his salary plus a 38% administrative fee out of his own paycheck. There's certainly some context I'm not aware of, but to me this is a pretty stupid move. The bean counters still get their cost-cutting measure with zero repercussions to the end product. This empowers them and teaches them that so long as someone is hurt more, they can get away with whatever. The only way stupid people realize they're stupid is letting them hang themselves. Like some stories in this sub where they allow stupid policies to go on until the losses are insurmountable. Before I finished reading, I thought they would crowdsource the articles on the air. Wait, are you saying that the producer was rehired after one of the employees agreed to pay for his salary and a fee? So in essence the employee has hired the producer via the corporation? That's messed up. Before I moved to Boston a few years ago, I had assumed Toucher and Rich was just one of the former president's nicknames. This is comedy gold. Thank you for sharing. I miss Fred Toucher and Rich from their various shows in Atlanta on 99X. That definitely was an era. Toucher's mini-truck computer and me calling in multiple times when he was working overnights, wanting him to play more at the drive-in. Ah, youth. He was definitely the best of the regional X-style terrestrial radio at the time. Freaking Beasley Media. Man. Over in Philadelphia they did the same thing to a longtime afternoon DJ on one of the city's most popular radio stations. WMMR just fired him out of the blue. And last I heard they're forcing all the stations they own that still have live DJs overnight to end those shows and automate it instead. No respect for the history or legacy of radio. All they care about is the money. It's a shame. Short-sighted? R. Bone Apple Tea. For the record, it's short-sighted, not sighted. Radio stations here in the Philadelphia market are also going through some shakeups. A couple of the stations are owned by the same entity and changed at the same time. I listen to these guys every day. They're the best. Took a wild guess as to who the owner of the station is. And imagine my surprise when it turned out to be Beasley. They just did the same thing here in Philly, firing the popular afternoon commute DJ along with a bunch of other staff. They also canceled the overnight broadcast, one of the last remaining live overnight broadcasts in the country, and something that really set the station apart. Gonna guess they probably did something similar in a lot of major markets too. It does not surprise me at all that Toucher and Rich would do this.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.